Behavior genetics, also known as psychogenetics, is a subdiscipline of forensic science that applies to the long-debated topic of nature versus nurture. Behaviors themselves distinguish one creature from another. Genetic perspectives could account for individual and shared behaviors in humans. Behavioral genetics uses genetic methods to answer 3 questions about the nature and origin of individual differences in behavior. The first question is there good evidence for genetic influence on behavioral differences? The second question is, how strong is this effect? Lastly, the third question is, through what mediating steps do the genes influence the behavior? Behavior genetics has determined that some genes influence the way individuals select and shape appearances, while other genes can affect an individual's susceptibility to these experiences. The science behind the legal argument of behavioral genetics is based on studies that have found an association between certain genetic variants, often interacting with childhood maltreatment and impulsive or antisocial behavior. Behavioral genetics has many applications, including legally and socially.
Defense attorneys deploy behavioral genetics to reduce their clients' punishments. In cases of drug-related crimes, expert testimony about the heredity of addictive disorder has been effective in reducing charges. In recent years, the discovery of the correlation between MAOA gene mutations and aggressive behavior has given lawyers more ammo for court. The MAOA gene provides the information needed to make the enzyme monoamine oxidase A, which breaks down neurotransmitters. If an individual has a mutation in their MAOA gene that causes a monoamine oxidase A deficiency, they will develop a buildup of serotonin in their brain. The excess buildup will impede the individual's impulse control, making them more likely to become aggressive. Studies have shown that people with MAOA deficiency who have also suffered childhood trauma are likely to exhibit aggressive behavior. If a defendant fits that criteria, their lawyer can argue that they are not responsible for the violent acts they've carried out.
A case where MAOA variant has reduced a person's sentence happened in Italy. Abdelmalik Bayat was convicted for killing Walter Felipe Novoa Perez. Bayat already got a 3-year cut on his sentencing due to a mental illness issue, but he got another year off because he was found to have the MAOA variant. Besides the courtroom, there are other issues with child abandonment and prenatal discrimination. Non-invasive prenatal testing can examine DNA to show if the person has Down syndrome, Patel syndrome, Edwards syndrome, or even the MAOA variant, which can cause a higher rate of termination. The National Down Syndrome Society raises concerns about these tests encouraging discrimination and can reduce incentives to develop treatments for existing patients with these genetic disorders. Other controversies can be attributed to misunderstandings of behavioral genetics research by the public or researchers themselves. For example, heritability can be easily misunderstood to imply causality, or that some behavior or condition is determined by the genes that are passed down by your parents.
Behavioral genetics is used in forensic science to help explain why a person committed a crime through the analysis of mutations in genes linked to behavior, such as the MAOA gene.
Behavior genetics can be used in court to argue that a defendant may not be responsible for their crime or to help the defendant receive a lighter sentencing.
Behavior genetics is not safe from controversies, however, with many critics arguing that it may cause higher rates of termination in pregnancy or that it could cause a false correlation between heritability and behavior. Despite these controversies, studies suggest that people with psychiatric disorders, physicians, and behavioral genetics researchers believe that genetic explanations for mental illness will diminish stigma and discrimination.
Overall, behavioral genetics could be a useful tool in forensic science that should be further explored and researched.